good evening, everyone. I'm Stephanie Agar, the Membership Events Manager, and I'm delighted to welcome you all to this evening's Fashion and Fiction event. I am so delighted to introduce today's speaker, Marian Keyes. I sort of feel like if you follow Marian at all, an introduction is almost redundant because she's so giving of herself already through Twitter, and you sort of feel like, I do at least, feel like I know her already. A prolific author and commentator, she joined us today in celebration of lucky 13th novel, The Break, which I was fortunate enough to devour earlier this month. Fashion does play a vital role in all of Marian's works, shaping readers' perceptions of her characters and creating a highly relatable world. I know when I was reading The Break, and I could envision Amy with her character Amy in her vintage dresses and high street finds, and felt like I'd already made a friend from this character, so I could vividly picture her. And one that I looked forward to spending 500 pages with, which went by in a flash. Marian is in conversation today with journalist and presenter Rosie Goldsmith, whose fashion and fiction series we've been extremely fortunate to support over the past few weeks. So I'm looking forward to this evening, as I know you are. So please join me in welcoming Marian and Rosie to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I can bathe in her glory very briefly. It's really, really wonderful to have you here, Marian, and I'm sure that everybody agrees, and I can just see that you've got lots of your fans here. We are in for a really, really wonderful evening. I would say that, wouldn't I? But this series about fashion and fiction has just been a joy from start to finish. The very first one was a couple of years ago now with Margaret Atwood sitting here talking as well about her books and, would you believe, The Handmaid's Tale, and how fashion and colour, costume was really important to her characters. And then we've gone on to talk to a number of other authors about the importance of clothing to them, particular periods of costume as well. I don't know whether anybody was here listening to Joanna Trollope talking about Jane Austen and her amazingly love of clothes, even though she doesn't write about them very often. With Marian's 13th book, The Break, even if it is about a break in a long marriage, it is also very much about clothing and PR and social branding and how we live online, how we have changed our attitude completely to how we buy clothes and shoes. And I think perhaps more than any other book you've written, it really covers that subject very well. So we'll talk about that to begin with. Now, Amy is your main character, and Amy works in a PR agency in Dublin, and she's married to Hugh. And they have 3 daughters, more or less, 2.5.
Yes, yeah.
I think you say. And she has a very interesting attitude to clothes. Do you think is she a fashion victim, or is she a trendsetter? Because she's very unusual.
Yeah, first of all, can I just say hello? Thank you so much for coming here tonight. It's such a thrill to be here in this amazing museum. And thank you, Rosie, so much for the lovely introduction, and to the V&A for having me. So, right, Amy. Yeah, Amy is me in many ways. She's short and she's round, and she loves clothes, and like me, I mean, I feel most days getting up and getting dressed, it's an exercise in damage limitation. She finds it difficult, and I find it difficult. And so she's short of money. So what she does is, it's something that I used to do a lot, like all the way through into my mid-30s. She buys stuff in second-hand shops. And she has what she calls a personal shopper, who is somebody who works in the charity shop, Help the Aged. And so when people die, people bring in all their mother's ex-clothes. And a lot of them are lovely because, they're cut differently and the fabrics are different. They're not disposable clothes, you know, the way a lot of the stuff we buy now is.
It's vintage. I mean, she calls
it's vintage. It
she calls
is
it vintage. And she's
Yeah.
loved it all her life, really, hasn't she?
Yeah.
She's been consistent in that.
Yeah, like, I mean, she's in her 40s now, she's 44. But like, even when she was young, when she was 22 and she was a single mother with a baby, she used to haunt like the markets in Leeds where she lived then, and she used to buy vintage clothes. So definitely, you know, so I don't think she's a fashion victim. I think she's striving to be sort of, well, A, to dress herself, and B, to kind of, she's sort of a little bit unconventional, and she conveys that a little bit through what she wears. I mean, obviously the job she does, she has to be fairly respectable some of the time, at least until the people know her. But her clothes are one way of expressing her unconventional approach to life.
I mean, I think, you know, having read a number of your books, honestly, I'm not just saying that, and having interviewed you before, I think that for you, clothes, I mean, you always describe what people wear,
Yeah.
and you always describe how they look, and you get a complete picture of how your
good.
characters look. But that's also because you're very aware of clothing and the
Yeah.
transformative power, if you like, of clothes and makeup. And
Oh, absolutely, and I always have been. Like, you know, when I was like a small child, like my mother used to make my clothes, and she used to make her own clothes, and it really mattered to her. Like, I picked it up very early on that she liked us to look nice, and as somebody, I've always felt wrong, and I've always regarded clothes as one way of making me fit in, and it's hard for all of us, because fashion, if we slavishly follow it, it's not going to suit most of us. And it took me a long time to understand that I have to kind of, to work with what works for me. And also, like, it really hurts sometimes. You know, like those lovely cut-off jeans, like the mid-shin ones. My legs are so short that they're down over my ankles. Like, they're never, ever going to work for me. And those little letting goes are kind of painful.
They are painful.
You know, and I know, like, these are first world problems. But it's, you know, but it is all about self-acceptance and maturity, and saying, okay, well, that's not going to work for me, but hey, look over there, that is going to work for me. So I can't remember now the question you asked me, but yeah.
But it is interesting, because Amy basically embodies both aspects of the whole fashion.
Yeah.
Because she's really, I mean, she will, you know, she'll sort of while away the hours at night online. And of course, so many of us now shop online anyway. And so she's really reflecting how we live today, which is, of course, absolutely what you do in all your books. But and that, I think, is really interesting too. She is an individual. She loves vintage clothes, and you know, people see her as that. But still, she will go and she'll buy the repeat item several times on ASOS.
Yeah. I mean, like, I do that. You know, like,
I thought you might.
Yeah. This is like, you know, I go to bed quite early, and I have great plans that I'm going to read an improving book. But I say, first, I'll just take a quick little look and see what's in. And then, like, 3 hours later, you know, I've ordered a load of stuff from China, and I don't know where the time has gone. And then, I don't know, 6 or 7 days later, the postman arrives with the parcel, and I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, you have to pay a load of customs stuff. I'm like, I didn't order anything. And then I think, oh Christ, maybe I did, you know? And the funny thing is, like, I don't drink, like, I don't take drugs, but I don't know, I get in that lovely, sleepy, happy state where I just think I'll just press PayPal, it'll all be fine, you know? And then the stuff arrives, and I've made some kind of incredibly heinous misjudgment on the size, and it's either like weenie or ginormous. And then it's the awful, and I'm sure they do this deliberately, they make it so difficult to return stuff. It's like you have to go through, it's like a Dan Brown book where you have to decode all this stuff to find out, finally, you know, and by the time you've found out, the 28 days have passed. And you think,
But
she
I
looked
still
at-
persist. I don't know about you. I mean, there was a really bad yellow silk blouse, and I persisted. And I said, you didn't answer my emails, and I
Yeah.
emailed you. So you can really.
If you have the energy.
You can crack the system.
But I don't. And the lovely thing is, I was out with somebody the other night, and I didn't know that she was as bad as me, but it turns out she is. And it's funny, she goes out to work and her fella stays at home, and she was telling me how amazingly easy it is to return things to ASOS, and he was going, yeah, because you give them to me. And he said that he's a film reviewer, so he's working at home, but he says he spends his day like to and from the front door taking packages or returning packages. Men are coming, men are given, men are taken away, you know, and like he's up and down the stairs the whole time, like, and it's true, like poor himself like does spend many, many hours. And masking tape, we get through acres of this stuff. Or rather he does, because like I fling the parcel into a study and say, that has to go back to somebody, you're good at that sort of thing, you know.
And do you have piles?
Piles.
Yeah, piles.
The shame
Piles.
of the pile.
Yes.
And then the relief, that kind of temporary relief, and the brown boxes have gone for a while, and you know, or the plastic bags, and then the shame as it starts again. I have a lovely saying, Steve is the name of my DHL man. I feel like, you know, we're spending Christmas together, basically, you know?
Does your husband know? But why not?
Steve is friends to the entire family at this stage, you know, and he'll leave things over at my mother's if I'm not there. He knows when we're on holidays, we have each other's mobile numbers, like, and so, hang on, I have to say my saying again, it's like something from the Bible. It's like, the Steve bringeth, and the Steve taketh away. Yeah.
Bravo.
Yes.
But you know, the great thing about the way you are is also the way you write, and it's all in there as well, because I don't know whether has anybody read The Break yet? That's a healthy
That's a lovely number. Thanks a million.
Halfway
Thank
through,
you so much.
There's a lot of clothing and makeup and in the first half, so we can talk about without giving anything away.
Yeah, we won't give anything away, no.
But let's say the ending doesn't have to do with clothing and makeup, but
yes, it doesn't.
all along the way there is a lot of it.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's interesting, I think, is, I mean, we were talking about online. But what this book also reflects is how we use so many different platforms to do so many different things.
Yeah, it's awful.
I mean, in this book, you talk about, obviously, Facebook, Instagram,
Twitter,
WhatsApp, YouTube.
Yeah.
And Amy has 3 daughters, and she has a mum, and she has sisters, and everybody's chucked into this novel. It's just fantastic. And that's the great thing, again, these are real people. And they are all on these various different, even the mother.
Yes.
She gets her own vlog.
Yes, yeah.
Now this is a really she's an interesting character, I think, Amy's mum, because she'd been very unhappy. She'd been with her husband who had dementia.
Yeah.
And then she finds this new self through makeup and clothes.
Yeah.
I mean, what a transformation. That's a great story.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, you know, she's an Irish mammy, and like until recently, Irish women, like once they hit a certain age, they were invisible. They were expected to be invisible and to be kind of, they mattered the least. And it was kind of tragic, like at a certain age, they all cut their lovely hair off and just kind of disappeared. And my own dad has dementia, and my own mother became one of those invisible women. But since Dad was always the one who ran everything, you know, and since Dad has become so incapacitated, she's had to step up, and she, in the bizarrest way, like out of this tragedy, she's blossomed, and she's developed her own life. And she is so nice to him. She is endlessly patient with him. I don't know how she does it, because like I spend Monday mornings with him, and honest to God, like after 10 minutes of him, I want to like hit him in the head with a hammer, and I won't do it, you know. I'm not going to do it. I'm only saying it, you know. If you say it, then you won't do it. But like the endless questions and everything. But she knows that to keep herself well and able to mind him, she needs to go out and to see friends. And so I took that dynamic. I mean, I'm quite open about it. Like the mother in the book isn't my mother and the dad isn't my dad, but that dynamic of a woman suddenly emerging from the shadow of a kind of an alpha male and finding her own way. Now, Marian Keyes hasn't gone on to do vlogs and stuff, but I thought, again, it's interesting because our whole attitude to aging has changed. Again, you know, women were supposed to just, as I say, become invisible at a certain age.
And wear black.
And wear black. Our camel.
Or pastel. Everything pastel.
Yes. And now we don't. You know, like I'm 54, like, you know, 30 years ago, that would have been, you know, one foot in the gravy. And now, you know, it's changed. And so Lochmoff, Lillian O'Connell, mother of 5, is 72, and she considers herself young. You know, she considers herself in a way like starting in life. And suddenly she's discovered makeup, she's discovered eyebrow tattooing. She gets her hair coloured in colours, like not just blondiness, but like she's considering going blue or maybe pink. And yeah.
No, she's wonderful.
Yeah.
She's really wonderful. I mean, it is, again, this is something you do. You have your own vlog as well, and you're very, very active on social media and so on too. I mean, do you think, I mean, what does being active on social media mean for you? Is it something you enjoy, or do you do it because it's good for the books?
It's so funny. Like, I'm not on Facebook at all.
So don't look for her.
Yeah, no, because, and I never understood Facebook. I thought it was the most appalling thing. Like when it started up, like I did a little, what's the thing called, a profile. And in about 4 seconds, all these, excuse me, complete bitches that I was at school with appeared wanting to be my friend. And I thought, no, you know? And then I thought, because I didn't have the courage to defriend them or reject them or whatever you do with them. So I thought, I can't handle this. I can't handle the power, you know? So, but then, you see, and my publishers, some of them are here tonight, they were always keen that I would have some sort of social media presence. And so they were encouraging me towards Twitter. And I thought, Twitter, how could you do anything in 140 characters? I thought, it's just way too small. And I started out of the blue, and I don't know what happened, but I fell in love. It was instant, it was total. And as you can see, I'm not good at keeping things concise. But somehow it works. And I don't want this new 280 characters. That feels like cheating. I'm happy with the 140. I don't want it. It's like, you know, when U2 put their songs on everybody's iTunes things and everybody was outraged. I don't want the 280 characters. But yeah, I loved it and I still love it. And it's a complete pleasure. And it wastes far too much of my time, far too much of my energy.
Do you have certain times in the day when you do it?
24 hours a day. No. Like I try because my work computer has been disabled, you know, from the Twitter. But there are too many other places.
So that's how you get the books written. I mean,
yeah. I think I'm a lot slower since I started.
But it's addictive though, isn't it?
It's completely addictive. And I read it somewhere, like it genuinely is. Because, like, you know, when you hit the refreshy thing and you get something new in, it literally does something. It gives us a spurt of dopamine, and apparently dopamine is one of those lovely chemicals that is similar to cocaine.
And buying clothes.
And yeah, it's the same thing.
Same mechanism, isn't it? Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably terrible, and it's probably doing awful things to our brains, but I don't care.
No.
You know, take our pleasures where we can,
it seems
I say.
Seems like a safe addiction in a way, by comparison with almost everything else.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. I love Twitter. I think it's really, really creative, actually.
I think it's really creative, you know, and the joy of constructing a sentence that you find, I don't know, aesthetically
well, you
attractive.
invent new words, which is wonderful too. I mean, you do that in your books as well. If you think we're veering off the subject and not talking about the books, as you know, everything that Marian says and does is actually reflected in her books anyway.
Yeah.
So we're all talking about the same thing.
Yeah, I'm very porous. Yeah, no, I am. Me, the books, me. Yeah.
But it's, I mean, with the social media in this book as well, you also move it on a notch as well, and you have Amy as being a PR person. In fact, that's another really interesting
Job, yeah.
Because, and I wanted to ask you how you feel about PR, because Amy actually controls the PR. She does PR campaigns for really famous people and gets them out of difficult situations and so on, and does the spin. But this is, again, it's in all your books you examine one profession of some kind in more detail. In this book it's PR. How did you choose that as a topic?
Something, I'll tell you what it was. It was reading the John Ronson book, So You've Been Publicly Shamed. And that talks, oh my God, sorry, there goes my sound. Can you still hear me? Yeah, we're all right. That talks about the manipulation of information that goes on at a level that we're not privy to. There's all kinds of shenanigans going on in high places that we will never know about, because deals are being done between newspaper editors or journalists and high-powered PR people who have information that they will give and withhold. It was that book. It was about how reputations can be utterly destroyed, how they can be rebuilt using kind of judicious manipulation of news. And then how there was so much stuff that we will never have, and I found it fascinating, because on some level, and it's on a very junior level, I know a little bit about how the press works, that if I do my Christmas books round for a magazine one year, they might give me an interview in 2 years hence. You know, that kind of, what's the word? The horse trading, that ugly business of the horse trading that goes on.
And if you understand how it operates and you can fit into it and you don't feel you're selling your soul, then you can live pretty comfortably with PR. And have you always lived comfortably with PR?
No, not at all. No. I mean, the thing is, and you can probably tell, like, I mean, I have very few boundaries, which is both a good thing and a bad thing.
PR nightmare.
Yeah, well, or maybe not. I don't know. I mean, like, you know, because I have no ability to be, what's the word? There's a word. Discreet. Yeah, you know, if somebody asks me for their opinion on somebody, I'll give it. And people go, no, Jesus, shut her up, for the love of God. But then again, you know, there's no use being Mrs. Blando McBland. You know, like, I have strong opinions, and yeah, they get me into trouble the odd time. But you look at least I'm a person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why everybody's here today. And what Stephanie said right at the beginning too, we feel we know you because we don't, but you tell us so much and you share so much too. I mean, you're probably the friendliest person I've ever interviewed. And that is saying that. I mean, she's just extraordinary. And it's really a pleasure when you talking with people you actually like to be able to interview them, and to be able to know that the women in your books are also absolutely authentic.
Thank you.
And I think that what's so interesting, that people write so much about you, and we haven't even mentioned the chick lit word, and I won't, because I think it's a huge, things have moved on so much since then. Your books are so intelligent. In fact, I was reading some of the reviews, and it called you, it was like a female Chekhov. Do you remember that review?
No!
Right. I'm actually going to find you that quote because it was so beautiful. And I thought, yes, I understand. Keyes is a kind of Chekhov of the abandoned woman. This is the Telegraph, by the way.
Jesus! The Telegraph! I've no idea!
It's there. Eloquent, inventive about women's feelings of rejection, loss, and desperation, and their ceremonies of recovery.
Ooh.
I know. And I think ceremonies of recovery, for me, I was trying to think, it also means about, and this is going back to the heart of these books and this talk, but going back to what fashion, costume, putting on clothes, putting on makeup means to us, because it is for you, obviously, a creative act.
Yeah.
If you say you find it difficult sometimes, as we all do in the mornings, to get up, and it's a matter of, I think you call it damage control.
Yeah.
I think we've all,
as
they say.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, how you put on the layers, how you make yourself go out there and
Yeah.
fight another fight.
Yeah, yeah.
And
No, definitely clothes are armour. And like the amount of times I've had conversations with, especially my friend Suzanne for some reason, because we shared a flat for like, it felt like 100 years, about 1,000 years ago. And like whenever a man had dumped us, which was frequently, we used to talk about how we'd be looking the next time he saw us, you know? And we'd be like, yeah, well, I'd just have gotten my colour done on my hair, and I'd have just, and I'd be wearing, you know, that dress we saw in Hobbs, you know, the really tight, and obviously I'd still be really skinny because I hadn't been able to eat because of the heartbreak. And yeah, you know, the whole thing of like, I would be looking amazing and he would be devastated. Yeah, the whole idea of clothes as armour, or clothes as something to kind of ease your way through the world. I mean, it's definitely...
It takes a lot of time, though. And I read, I don't know whether any of you have dipped into Hillary Clinton's autobiography, which is called What Happened.
Oh, What Happened, yeah.
Which is absolutely fascinating because she writes in one passage about how many hours, she actually counted how many hours she spent during the campaign, getting ready and being in front of the mirror, having her hair done and her makeup done.
Yeah.
And I actually wrote it down because I thought it was such an extraordinary fact. During the presidential campaign, she spent 600 hours, which is 25 days, having her hair and makeup done.
God.
And then another fact about all of us, apparently the average woman spends 355 hours a year in front of the mirror. Now that's a lot of time spent getting ready, which in speech marks we could be saving the world or doing something else. I mean, we do spend a lot of time.
Well, Zadie Smith called it a tax.
A tax.
A tax on our time.
Yes.
You know, that's why she got into so much trouble. I shouldn't even be saying this, should I? But she was saying that she only wants her daughter to have a maximum of 15 minutes in front of the mirror. Yeah, it is time that men don't have to use, that they can use doing something else. And I mean, to bring it back to Hillary Clinton's case, I mean, she couldn't win. Like, if she went out without makeup on, they all said, Jesus Christ, the state of her. There's no way I'd vote for somebody who looked like her, and anyway, she looks ancient, and I'm not going to vote for someone who's about to drop dead. Do you know, like, I mean, she was in an impossible situation. Yeah. And I think, I mean, that's a massive question, because, yes, if I didn't get my hair done or put on makeup, I would have more time to do other things. And I can say that I choose to spend my time doing that. But then I have to think, but am I socialized to think that I have to? It's really complex.
And how do we as feminists also explain that time away? I mean, I sort of always fob people. I just, because I love it too. I love makeup, I love clothes.
Yeah.
But I would say, well, I think it's actually quite a creative process.
Yes.
Painting yourself or putting clothes together.
Well,
and I know that you and I, we were on Twitter today trying to decide
what
colour.
to wear.
You may have followed it. But I actually thought that was fun.
Yeah.
And I actually think it's quite, you know, it's a positive time for me spent doing that.
I love beautiful things, like all kinds of beautiful things, like paintings or hats. I love beautiful clothes. And I actually feel very sorry for men that they have such a narrow choice. Like, genuinely, I'm not trying to be funny. I really wish that the templates weren't so rigid for both sexes. I wish that there was less judgment and more fluidity, because, what we wear says so much about ourselves, and you can have so much fun. And, poor men are limited to wearing, like, novelty socks,
and a tie.
And a tie, when, like, things could be so much more fun. I'm really sorry. God almighty, the good expensive equipment. I'll sit on it now.
I wouldn't get.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, but I love beautiful things. I love the choice. And having said that, now I have a niece who I am devoted to and in love with, and she is 17, and she's sort of Kira in the book. And my niece Emma, took a decision that she wasn't going to buy clothes for a year, which I just think is an amazingly interesting way to live, you know, because we live in disposable times, and you know, she's very aware of the cheapest of our clothes being produced in very unethical circumstances, and that also is a choice that is an interesting one.
It's a difficult choice.
It's a really difficult one, especially at her age, where like they're all about appearance.
And then it's also, I mean, another aspect that comes up in the book is the power of brands as well.
Yeah.
And I know that you yourself have spoken about that too. And obviously, you know, you've experienced a lot of what you've put into the book. You've admitted that.
Yeah.
But it is also, again, it's the power of brands of our time.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what happens in 100 years' time
Yeah,
when we look
what
back.
will survive? Yeah.
Will it be the Prada, the Gucci bags? Will there be it bags? And what on earth will happen in the next, when people are watching this film of us doing this in 100 years' time?
Yes.
What will they will think we're very odd, I should think. But,
I wonder what will have survived.
Now, I just wanted to read a tiny bit from the book.
Sure.
I know you didn't want to read, but just a little flavour of the whole clothing part, which I've got a few of my favourite passages here. I'm just going to read from the beginning where she talks about vintage, because I think that's what's so distinctive about Amy. She does have a different way of dressing.
Yeah.
And it makes her stand out, I think, and particularly in a PR business too, where you have to.
Yes, where you're meant
to dress in the.
Yeah, power dress.
Mind you, none of my PR friends ever dress like that, I'm delighted to say. And you have some wonderful PR people before anybody ever thinks otherwise. Okay, vintage. Declan watches with an indulgent smile and focuses on me. Great dress, Amy, vintage. Or to put it another way, second-hand. Some of my clothes are proper, expensive, designers from the 70s. Imagine this with an Irish accent, by the way, I wish you were reading it. Vintage. But others are from the wardrobes of recently deceased old ladies that sell for half nothing and help the aged. You could say that I have a personal shopper, a lovely volunteer called Brona, Brona Kingston, who rings me if good stuff comes in. And really, there's no point in being morbid. If the clothes are nice and they're dry cleaned twice, isn't it heartwarming to think of them continuing to give a person pleasure? Now, if I sound a little defensive, it's because I have to defend my choices to Neve, who's her oldest daughter, who most mornings treats me to dead people's clothes. No. Not that my vintage stuff can be worn every day. If there's an important meeting, especially a pitch to potential clients, I have to corporate up. You invent words so fantastically, two phrases. In a suit that isn't cut right for a person of my shortness. But when the client starts to trust me, like Mrs. Everdry seems to, my lovely character-filled clothes can be unleashed. Anyway, and so it goes on. Edwardian governess meets biker chick. Now, the other thing is your inventiveness with language too, and the way you describe clothes is just phenomenal too.
Thank you.
When you wrote your first book, so the first one was Watermelon. Even then you were writing about appearance and clothes and women's lives in the spotlight, if you like, with families and how they were being judged all the time by what they wore. So it's something that you've always done naturally. You just pick it up as you go along. You say, "Oh, I'll put that into that book."
I mean,
make that person look like that.
Important. I mean, for me, it was always kind of part of what concerned me a lot. Because I feel we're very much judged on our appearance. And I mean, definitely if I've got something big and scary coming up, I start agonizing about what to wear. Like I really...
Is it pretty high up in your anxieties of what to wear?
I'd love to be one of these people who just doesn't care. Like who just shows up in a 30-year-old something or other, you know, and just runs a brush through their hair. And I'd love to be that person, and I aspire to be that woman, you know, in years to come. But I don't have the confidence. I don't have the nerve. And I've always been like that.
And
From
your
very
characters
young.
too, been always very aware of it through all your books.
Yeah, I think there are very few. The only one who really didn't care was Helen Walsh in The Mystery of Mercy Close. And that's because she just doesn't care, you know? Like, she just doesn't care who she offends. She doesn't need people to like her. She doesn't care if you hate her, and most people do. Like, she will only wear black with the odd, like her, you know, the odd pop of orange or yellow. You know, but she will do nothing to please other people.
Was it difficult writing a character like her, though, who was not particularly nice in many ways?
No, it was a huge relief. Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. Just for once, you know? I mean, that makes me sound awful. That makes me sound like I'm secretly seething. And I'm not. I mean, you know, I would far rather be pleasant, and I would like to be kind. But it's hard work betimes, you know? And it's just, I wonder what it would be like. They often pop up in crime people novels. People who just don't care, the mavericks, the loners, you know? Just think it'd be great to be a maverick and a loner, and to not care who you offend, and to rub people up the wrong way in the department, and to get reported to the superintendent and everything, and to still go and pursue your line of inquiry. You know, I don't have the confidence to be that person.
So you wouldn't write a book like that?
I wouldn't, because sooner or later I think, God, she's so rude. But you know, come on, what's the bit of manners?
So you'd start judging her and...
I would. But for that moment, just writing Helen and her complete absence of the need to be loved was very, very reliefful.
Of the books that you read, because I know you read a lot, you just
Yeah.
take them all in, even though, as we both have admitted today, we don't read erudite books at night before we go to bed. We look at fashion magazines.
Yeah.
War and Peace was there for quite a few years. I have read War and Peace, but I haven't read it at night because it's not relaxing, is it? I mean, this whole business...
I couldn't tell you because I haven't read it. The funny thing is, I tried to read it when I was about 13 or 14, and I found it so... It was like trying to get through a garden full of briars, and I couldn't. And somebody said to me, books aren't meant to be like that, you're meant to enjoy them. So I thought, that's lovely. That was such a lovely thing to be told. Yeah. So I abandoned it, and I've never gone back.
Did you read Anna Karenina?
I haven't read any Tolstoy, I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It's fine.
I've read loads of Dostoevsky, if that's any good. Russians.
We'll take Dostoevsky,
Yeah.
I think the Russian would. But who else do you enjoy reading? Who do you like?
I don't read the classics because I just don't. Because I'm very interested in, and I'm sorry because I know there are men here, I am very interested in what women have to say, because I think it is a lot harder to find female opinions in the world. Like, you know, I turn on the telly, men are talking to me. I turn on the radio, men are talking to me. I open a newspaper, men are writing at me. You know, and I want to balance the information I'm receiving. And so I will read almost entirely women. I'll read crime, I'll read young adult, I'll read the Bailey's long list. I mean, I read kind of fairly indiscriminately, because I get a lot of books sent to me, and if I start something and I find it in any way interesting, I'll keep at it. I finished I'm not even sure if it's a young adult one last night, called Genuine Fraud by E. Lockhart. It's just out. It's really interesting because it's told, the story is told backwards, like Sarah Waters did in Night, the book about Second World War. Did somebody say it?
Yes.
Night Watch, thank you, yeah. So the concept isn't new, but the voice was an 18-year-old girl, so...
But are you looking for, Scarlett O'Hara, I know, is another character you're really interested in too, and you've talked about Edna O'Brien and Maeve Binchy in the past as well. Do you look for other role models as well in literature? I mean, do you...
Yeah, I do.
You do?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned The Power to You by Naomi Alderman.
Listen, this is the book that won the Bailey's Prize, or I think it was called Bailey's Prize.
Well, back then it has a new name now.
It's just called the Women's Prize.
Yeah, and I loved it because I found it was so groundbreaking. It's a novel of ideas. It's a philosophical novel, but it was told in such a thrillery way that it gave new ideas. Very telling a great story.
Absolutely, and very much like a sort of modern day Handmaid's Tale.
Very much,
which again, talks about, it's a very feminist book.
It's a very feminist book, and I mean, I like to read young women especially. I think what they are doing, especially with unlikable characters, unlikable narrators, is very brave, because women, and I very much include myself in this, we value niceness. We think if we are nice, that it will make getting through the world easier for us. Whereas these young women, like Louise O'Neill in particular, I've just read her 3rd novel, like all her narrators are unpleasant. This new one is really unpleasant, and she's unapologetic about it, and I love it. And there's a lot of that coming up in the 20-something.
I feel that maybe you will write a book like that one day, where somebody's really unpleasant. You're getting really interested in that whole notion of women not being nice.
Not needing to be nice all the time.
I could always say there's a perfect question and answer to end on, but what you do so well is to portray all of us as very vulnerable and fragile women and people with problems, and also great joy as well too. And you do it in such a positive way.
Thank you.
And you make us laugh, and you make us cry, and you make the ordinary extraordinary. And I really mean that. And I want to thank you so much, Marian, for coming. Thank you to the V&A. Thank you to all of you for coming.
Thank you.
And stay with Marian, because she's very kindly going to sign books. So the break has only been out a couple of weeks.
A couple of weeks, yeah.
And I've got a proof copy, but there's some lovely new copies out there. And Marian will talk to you. There'll be a glass of wine, I think. And so please stay, socialise, enjoy the company of this wonderful woman.
Thank you so much. It's been absolutely lovely. Thank you for having me, and thank you, Rosie.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.